Yeah. Oh, baby. I got a question for the ladies out there.
All right.
Before I fuck with you. Y'all, excuse me. I don't own the rights. Oh, baby. Could you learn to love a trouble man? Tasha, could you learn to love a trouble man?
I think that's all I do love.
Oh, could you learn? Could you learn to love a trouble man? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up, Lady D?
What's up? I'm so ready for this conversation.
Yes, sir. You looking good. Y'all looking good tonight.
Thank you.
I gotta get in my zone for this one. Yes,
Oh,
sir. All right. I'm playing my joint right there. If y'all don't know this song, get into that joint right there. Alexa, pause. Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're gonna get started. I'm gonna give a few people a few moments to come on because I am assured tonight that we're gonna have male representation on this joint. So
They
it's
better.
not interesting. Exactly. This is a subject that was asked for. Audience, we're gonna be talking about child support and its effects on relationships. This is one that was asked for. And so it's a complicated topic, and it's emotional, it's personal for some people on different levels. And even for myself, when I ended what was it, Saturday show,
mhm.
I ended it by saying I didn't have a dog in the race, and I've had a couple of days to think about it. And I thought about it. I do have a dog in this race, believe it or not. Even though I might not be affected directly, I've never had to pay child support or anything like that, been put on child support. When you think about it, there's a bigger issue that we'll talk about as we get towards the end, how it affects relationships. So in that sense,
Mhm. Yeah.
everybody has a dog in this race. So
Hmm.
um, as we wait for a couple of people to join, I'm going to Tasha. Would you do me the favors to post the link inside of the chat box? Uh,
Okay.
we got Derek on. How you doing today, sir?
What's going on?
All right, all right. So, man, welcome to the show. We're waiting on G Paul. We're waiting on Terry. So I'll let a couple of more members join. Terry's in the green room, but she hasn't come on screen yet. And then, of course, I'm going to get started. So we've got Jerry in this piece. As I told you, I thought the male population will be
They
represented
showing
very
up,
heavily on
right?
this. They are showing up for this topic, ladies. So, I'm hoping that it can be an equal representation on both sides. I'm expecting my normal panel of people. I hope Candace shows up. I hope Kennard shows up. Sherry hopefully will be on screen, and so I've even sent out specific invites to, Shavana, Shanquavian, Miss Tyra, you know, even if they don't show up on camera, they've been invited to, be a part of the panel and show up. So I hope they do. So that's what we're going to hope for. The link is posted into the chat box just in case you want to actually come on screen. And so I'm literally going to give about another 2 minutes, and then we're going to go ahead on and we're going to start this thing for what it's worth. So Tasha keeps coming in and going out. So I'm waiting on my co-host. I see Dreamy.
Hi.
Tasha, you keep popping
So
in and out like a
that's me. I'm sorry.
like
I
a,
was trying
a
to post it.
whack-a-mole
I'm
or
sorry.
something.
That's me. I'm sorry.
All right. We got Mr. J on this joint coming on board. Uh,
Seven.
so you know what? I think we've got enough people to kind of get started. To get started and get the conversation popping. So,
I'm a
a-
smacker.
so as always, so hold on, guys, hold your comments down. As always, I want to set the tone really quickly. We know it's a touchy topic. So we know that people can tend to take it personal. We're going to let everybody speak when they have opinions. I'm going to try to keep it orderly, and I don't expect it to get out of line. For the record, we're all adults. The good news about the people that I deal with, everybody is agreeable. We articulate. We all good friends. With each other. So nobody's going to leave here with their feelings hurt. too much. We
Nice.
might have a little something to talk about after the show is over, but for the most part, we all gonna be friends and family behind it all. And so, but I do want you guys to keep it real. That I do want. I don't want you to feel like you have to hold back, sugarcoat your opinion in any kind of way, because that's what we do here. So I always kind of start out normally by going to Tasha and asking what her thoughts are on the subject, but I'm gonna do it different this time. I want to set the stage first of all for what child support is. Is that fair?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So number one, I try to bring my little parts to the table and bring a little education to the table, and in studying this topic, I was actually educated. When we think of child support, we think of it in its pedestrian sense. Somebody has to pay to take care of the kid, usually the non-custodial parent, and it has so much negative connotation that that's pretty much where we always start. But in researching this, that's not how it started. Child support
Mhm.
actually was instituted in 1975. It was actually started and signed into law by President Gerald Ford, because it was
Mhm.
designed to keep intact the so-called nuclear family, believe it or not.
Mhm.
So its original purpose was one that was for good. It was interesting. The question is, at some point, it became outdated. Now, if you don't know this, Gerald Ford grew up in a single household. He grew up in a household where his father didn't pay child support. I want you to keep that in mind. So, as president of the United States, when he decided to make this, into a law, what happened was, as we were transitioning from the nuclear ages of the 60s, Gerald Ford, in case you didn't know, when he was elected president, he was in his 60s. So here you have a 60-year-old white man, who grew up in an idyllic time where mom and dad, children was in the house. Dad was the breadwinner. Mom stayed home. She kept home. Well, here come the 70s, and all of a sudden, now things started to change. We started to see at that time, believe it or not, in the early 70s, divorce wasn't what it is to now. Divorce was at a very low rate. But if you know your history, then you know that love period came in. Anybody know about Woodstock and things of that nature, where you had free sex, free love, and all of a sudden people were coming back from the Vietnam War and they were coming down off of the establishment, and all of a sudden you started having more babies out of wedlock. More and more people were having kids, without being married. The nuclear family was changing. So, in an effort to keep the nuclear family together, the government stepped in and decided to create child support as a way to supplement initially children of divorce. That's what it was originally intended for, children of divorce. But as we transcended and got into the 80s, now the family started changing. Now you started having more women entering the workforce. And so here's this disparity that came about, that on one hand, why should a system support women, who you're trying to force them to stay home, and then other women want to get out in the workforce? And then it supported the myth, believe it or not, because President Bill Clinton, everybody know about this current election and how that kept coming up when it was holding against Biden during the Clinton administration, was branded the myth of the deadbeat dad. Don't take my word for any of this. Go and do your research on your own. But from Clinton's administration, they passed further laws that ultimately ended up punishing and rewarding women based on the myth of the deadbeat dad. Because at that time, there was an actual incident that showcased a guy, it was a black guy, that got on the news and was bragging about having all these kids and he wasn't caring for them. And so literally this one so-called viral moment, that term wasn't invented then, but this moment was national. And so the government said, again, we're going to step in and we got to do something about this. We can't have black men coming on camera talking about they making all these babies out here and they're not going to care for their babies. So they passed another act, which basically gave the government greater enforcement powers to pursue men, in particular minorities, and punish them adversely. Here we are. Here we are today. Now I could go further, but I don't want to keep turning this into a history lesson, but I did want to give you guys a little bit of background as to how child support began. And now we're going to talk about 2021. Here we are. So I want to kind of do a tit for tat. Right now I'm overpopulated with the men, so we're gonna try to keep it even. But you know what? Etiquette always says let women go first. I'm gonna change it up. I want my brothers to go first this time. So I want any one of you men who feel free to speak up and give me your honest take on how you feel about child support in general.
This is 2020. I identify as a man.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you. Go ahead.
All right. You know what? I'm gonna pick on you,
I'm
Jay.
kidding.
This
I'm
was
kidding.
a topic that's near and dear to you. I know I kind of muffled you a little bit in Saturday's session.
How you picking somebody, man?
So
How you picking somebody,
this
man?
is his
That's
topic,
your favoritism. That's just like child support. You show
Absolutely.
favoritism.
Yes, sir.
I yield the floor to my brother Jay.
I want to hear Jay, because Jay might teach me something. But let us pick somebody. Go ahead.
Then who
Jay.
pick somebody?
I'll go after you.
No. The beauty of it is,
Why y'all scared
it's
to
my
talk?
show. All right. So
No, that just
on.
did it right there. 'Cause I'm not scared.
let's get it, as they say. Let's get it.
So your question was what my thoughts on the child support
general,
system?
I gave a little bit of background,
right,
of what it was initially intended to be.
right.
And again, I tried to bring you guys up to today's history because I could have kept going. We know that, on both sides of the aisle, when women went in the workforce, that didn't stop them from having babies. And on one hand, it's not fair to penalize women because they had kids, and then because where the guys taking care of these kids. But on the other hand, there's an argument to be made that how can you penalize men, for the same thing? Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So here we are in 2021, and the reality is the kids didn't ask to be here. So in terms of a general sense of child support, where do you stand, Jay?
Where I stand, and I can only speak from my experience and a lot of the guys that I've dealt with, and that has gone through child support and that's currently paying child support. Some good fathers who have been there since their children opened their eyes and been on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
Some fathers who, at every chance, try to spend as much time with their children as possible. Will give their right arm for their child because they love their child. And where I stand, as we all know, things often start off, for various reasons, but oftentimes the intent is good, but it morphs into something else.
True.
And what's happened is that what child support has done is actually adversely affecting a lot of the fathers that want to be in their children's life, and it's impacting them in a negative way. And I can speak to that, from a personal standpoint. And so we talked a little bit last session about it, and we kind of lead into this. And I think someone made the comment. Well, Tasha made the comment, and you made the comment also, Black, that y'all don't have a dog in the fight. I'm paraphrasing it, and I said I disagree with that because as we all know, when omission is just as bad as commission. When you see something and you don't say something, you see something that's negatively impacting someone else, and you sit back and don't say nothing, then to me, you're just as guilty. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We all know that quote. And child support is just that in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying that there are some people, and when I say people, there are some men and women that are deadbeat, that are not being there for their children, that should, have their, should be held accountable to be responsible for their children. I get that, but far too often the courts, and it's changing now. But far too often the courts, they automatically rule towards the women versus the guys. They automatically assume that child is better off with the mother. And I'm sorry, I'm here to tell you that's not always the case. And without going into too deep in my situation, I had two mothers, two baby mamas. They left their children, and I've been there since day one. Since day one. And so I can speak from personal experience. I got other brothers on here. I'm sure they got their own experience they want to speak from. And I know I pretty much most of the guys that I deal with and that I see on a regular basis are just some of the most when it comes to just setting a good example, when it comes to taking their kids and trying to be the best father they know how to be and be a role model. Those are guys that I deal with that I see on a regular basis. And a lot of them have been victimized by the child support system. And I'll stop right there, and we can go further. I don't want to monopolize, all the time.
No,
I don't know the answer to your question, but that's kind of my
No, you answered it completely because you telling where you stand in a general sense. So I appreciate it. I think you laid it out very, very nicely. Terry's in the background. He's saying preach. So you have somebody that's concurring with what you said. You've got some heads nodding on here as you were talking. Terry even chimed in that most women take advantage of the system, and so we're gonna talk about that. So you laid your view out. You laid your view out fine. I want to give a woman a chance to respond. So I got Sherry, Daracel, Tasha. Daracel, the same way I picked on a man, I'm gonna pick on you, sweetheart.
Okay. I will say this. I feel like in some cases child support is necessary because y'all on here may take care of your children, but there's a lot more that don't. And when I say take care of your children, I feel like as a woman, if you know that we had a child together, I should not have to ask you for anything for that child. If they're going on a field trip, if they need diapers, if they need shoes, you should be calling me, first of all, concerned about your child. And within that conversation, I saw a field trip was coming up, how much is it? I'll take care of it. I know that, the baby's 2 months old and they need diapers this often. I'm bringing over some diapers. I feel like I would ask you one time for something. And if there's a no, if there's a I can't, if there's a let me check my funds, then child support would be necessary because I don't want to have to constantly ask you to take care of a child that you have out there. And that's the situation. I feel a lot of women do take advantage of the system, but I'm not going to beg any man to take care of what's yours. You should be willing to do it. You should do it without hesitation. You should do it without asking. And then when it comes to a point where I have to ask you for things for our child, then yeah, the court has to be involved. But if you're doing that, then there's no reason to get it involved. You guys may be those men that take care of your children, but there's a lot that don't. A lot of that don't. I know girls that get $20 a week for a child. What is $20 a week? I mean, so it is necessary because these guys make babies and they leave and they make babies with somebody else and they leave and they keep, the cycle is in. And I feel like as a man, you should get to know these women before you're having kids with them, before you're laying down with them. And then you would know what they think about family. You would know what they think about child support. You would know what they think about all these things. But when you're laying down with people that you don't know, this is a consequence. Women get vindictive sometimes. The saying is hell has no fury. That is true. When a woman feels like she's been scorned, she's going to do the most. And sometimes it involves the children. It's not right. I'm not saying it's right, but it happens. It happens a lot.
Yeah, but you said
Hank. We're gonna speak on the turn. So Daracel made a lot of good points, and I want to pose it to the men. Where do you fall on a lot of those points that she made? That the child is made by both of you, and that if they're going to be responsible, like you say you are, Jay, that you've never ran, you've always been there. But we all know that that's not reality with a lot of guys. Mm-hmm. So she brings up a good point that what about those women that have to find the guy, that he's nowhere to be found, and that he's out making multiple babies with multiple partners, and then she still has to beg him for basic needs. That is, under those circumstances, is it fair that she get the system involved because she has every right to have her child have those things? Again, the child didn't ask to be here. And so in a perfect world, it would be great if the man stepped up to the plate, But we know that in reality that all of us on this panel, we know guys that got multiple kids with multiple different baby mamas who duck, who hide, who give the very least. And so I'm gonna give a guy a chance to address some of those concerns she put out there.
So let me ask you this question.
Well,
Well, go ahead, Derek, because I talked earlier.
no, what I was gonna say is that I agree with the fact that if an individual, two people make that child. But my problem is that maybe it might be going off what the question was asked, is that what I've found in my experience is that it's been the opposite. Yes, the court system gets involved, but I feel like more times than not, the individual, that father or that woman is not the custodial child, who's actually paying, is being punished or actually get the short end of the stick because of those individuals who don't pay. It's like you go in, a individual like myself, I'm paying child support, but I have never missed a payment or never did anything that would not deem me worthy or deem me as a bad person or bad father. I actually tried to get actual custody of my kids, but of course it's a stipulation. It's almost like maybe I'm wrong for saying this. It's almost like if it's normally, like you said, the woman gets custody. In order for a guy, in some circumstances, that the other parent, which is the mother, has to be in some kind of mental or in some kind of substance abuse.
In a straight jacket.
Yep.
And with a crack pipe in the mouth.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And so it's like, for me, I feel like I've been to court several times because of wanting increases, or because they feel like that they're not getting enough to take care of their child's needs. And then, but sometimes what is not taken into account when you go into court, regardless of if they want you to have receipts or anything like that. And what a lot of times what they say that is a gift, or they don't take into account is that when that child is with you, no matter if it's with you a day or a month or whatever, those expenses that child has, you have to take care of that. Not saying that you shouldn't pay that money, but I'm just saying that they don't take that into account. And so it's like, just because that child is not in their home doesn't mean they don't want that child in their home.
Okay.
So
great points. Derek, you bring up two important points that I want to highlight. One of which you said at the very beginning, you said that you feel like decent men who are there and trying to participate are being penalized for all the dead beat ones. Right. I like that point right there. So, we could talk about, how is that fair? And then the other point you made, which Terry says, it takes an extreme case for fathers to receive custody. And so I do see a great disparity in the sense that, and although it's changing, but by and large, the courts automatically award custody to the woman. And is it a fair point, ladies, for him to bring that up, that the woman damn near has to have a needle in her arm and a dick hanging from her lip, with a rope around her neck for the judge to say, damn, let's take this kid out of the woman's house. So he bring up a couple of valid points, so we'll talk about that. Jay, did you have any additional points you want to add before I go to a woman?
I do, because Darissa made the comment about she shouldn't have to beg the guy to do anything for the children. And I agree with that. But the opposite holds true also. We shouldn't have to beg the woman to do anything for the children as well. And I'm of the opinion, I'm like Derek. She also made the comment about you should know who you lay down with. Well, that works both ways. That works both ways. So when you lay down with me, you should have got to know me a little bit better too. It takes two people to make a child. And when that child didn't ask to be here. So both of us are accountable. Both of us should be held responsible for taking care of that child. And I do not agree that it's always in the best interest for that child to be in that mother's household. In fact, like Derek, I went full throttle and I got custody of my daughter. But what I didn't do, I was not vindictive. I never once tried to keep her from her mother. And I didn't go after her mother. I mean, because I feel the same way. You know, I'm gonna take care of my child, or should I say my children, regardless. It doesn't matter because that's mine. They have my DNA and my blood. I'm gonna take care of mine regardless. So those are my comments. You know, it's kind of offensive oftentimes when women they say, well, this is my child, my child, my child. You didn't make that child by yourself.
Yeah.
How is your love so much stronger than my love? So I got issues with that.
Okay.
And know what else they always say? On mama's baby, daddy's maybe.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
To keep
That's
it real.
fair.
That's right.
That's
And
fair.
then just like you talk about guys having all these
Yo.
children, well, what about these women who got multiple baby daddies?
Okay.
So you know this whole adage is always this the guys are always the one. Yeah, of course there are a lot of deadbeat dads, but I would argue and say there are just as many as deadbeat women out there.
Okay. So stop right
Sit
there.
back having babies so they can get a check.
Okay, so stop right there. Stop right there. You bring up some really good points. So Daracel, that's why I was gonna go. You know, I want to give you a fair chance, you know, to respond to what was directly said to you.
I don't think the average, and I would say you guys on here probably make pretty good income. You're not millionaires by any standard. I don't see a woman saying, I'm gonna, you know, have a baby, you know, if you're not a wealthy man, to lay up and have a baby for that reason, because the check that you get is not substantial enough to make any impact on your life. And I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but any woman that applies for welfare or government assistance, they will automatically find the dad and make him pay child support, period. And that's in most states. I don't know if it's in all, but in most states, if a woman applies for government assistance, they make the guy pay child support, period. And guys aren't aware of this either. If they're making you pay child support and you're not on the birth certificate and she's declaring that you're the father, if you don't show up to court, guess what? By default, you are named the father. So guys, you do have a responsibility in this to show up and be held accountable for a lot of things, like making a baby. I mean, we are stuck with the baby. We don't have a choice. You have a baby. It's yours. It's yours forever.
Okay. Let her finish.
But you are. You kind of. You stuck with the baby. I mean, it ain't like we could just y'all lay down with a woman, she gets pregnant, you leave, you never see you again. You know, in some cases, but we hold a lot of the burden, you know, of taking care of that child, of nurturing, of breastfeeding, of diapering, of changing, especially when you're not married and you're not with the guy. You know, if it's just a situation where you didn't have somebody pregnant, I mean, it's easier for guys to leave. I mean, there are a lot of deadbeat women, but there's a lot of situations where women are stuck, and women do. I mean, there's women that have multiple babies with multiple guys, and it's not always for a check. Some of these women are looking for love, and laying down with a guy is the way they look for love. And the side effect of that is they constantly getting pregnant. It ain't for a check, not always. It's not. I see Kanara. He's like, it ain't always for a check. I'm defending women today because y'all ragging on the women. I gotta defend the women.
Daracel, I want to go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to get Sherry and Tasha into this conversation. So you guys have been on the sideline listening. So
you need to get
what's your take up to now? All right, we're gonna get to you, but we want to hear what the women gotta say. So okay. Sherry or Tasha, what do you have to say on this?
I'll go ahead and go. Like you, Black, I feel like I didn't have a dog in the race, but I can tell you as a child who was raised with divorced parents, I lived with my mother and I lived with my father. So I've had it to where both parents ended up having to pay child support at one time or another. And I've seen from my own personal experience, just people that I know, people that I talk to, a lot of good men are on the harder side of receiving a lot of the, I would say probably the negatives that come with child support. Even though they want to be in that child's life, they're there, they pay, they want to visit. Some women are vindictive and they are just no good. But on the other side of it, I could say for the same thing for the men, that there are a lot of men that don't want to be involved in the child's life. I don't think that there is a right or wrong answer here. It's just whatever your personal experience is. But I will say this, and I've told Black this, I don't think women should be the ones on birth control. I think it should be mandatory off top for men to have to be on birth control, or they should have a vasectomy early in life. And then once you reach a certain age, I think you should have to pay to have it reversed if you want to lay down and have kids. I'm a strong advocate of I'm child free. I don't plan on having kids. I don't want that. I don't want to be in that position where it's all up to me and left on me, and I have to deal with it by myself. I grew up in that. I don't want to deal with that. I see what it does to people, and I don't like it. And I think that the only way to improve these situations is to have these conversations, these hard conversations, and some of our family members or friends who are in these positions, we need to tell them straight up when they're being that trifling person, when you know that they're only having kids because they do want that check, whether it be small or not, they do want that check. So then they have an excuse to not do anything. There's a lady I used to know who worked in the child support office. This man came in every week and paid $1 a week on his child support for 15 years, for the last 15 years. And that's all that he got. And they could never say that he was, behind or anything because he paid $1. So I can see it from all views. I get everyone's position, but that's just mine.
Okay. Sherry, before I go to raise another question, did you have a point you want to make?
No.
Okay, let me ask you guys a question. You're all making some real valid points. I'm not chiming in with my opinion whatsoever. I'm just the moderator here. But I want to ask a question. Would you as a group agree, or do you disagree, that when a child comes into being, the economic impact is greater on the woman? Agree or disagree real quick?
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Sherry?
I agree.
Tasha?
It depends. I'm sorry, it depends. It's not clear cut. It depends.
Okay. Jerry?
Disagree.
Jay?
I'm with Tasha. It depends.
Derek?
The same. It depends on the situation.
And Kennard?
It depends, but the overall perception is that it's going to fall on the woman. But as far as like the tangibility of it, it all depends.
Okay. And I want to get to
Do
that.
you guys know?
Go ahead, D. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. No, go ahead, sweetheart.
I was going to say, do you guys know the actual cost of delivering a baby if you don't have insurance? And a lot of these lower income women don't have insurance.
Where are you coming from with this? Where are you coming from with this?
Daracel, you going where I'm going.
You really think we don't make no money?
I'm sorry.
Daracel, you're going where I want to take the
I'm
conversation.
not saying you don't make any money.
No,
I'm
hold
saying,
on.
do you know how much it costs to have a baby?
Daracel, no, you're going where I'm asking a question.
I'm sorry.
Because I like the answer that it depends, but where I was getting at is, would any of you deny, I agree with it that it depends, which any of you deny that the fact that the woman has to carry the child, deliver the child, that there's an immediate economic disadvantage that she experiences that a man doesn't have to experience. Am I wrong in assuming that?
No, I agree with that. Yeah, you can't deny that.
Agree,
yeah, we can't carry babies.
Now, that depends on the situation.
Let me hear you, Jerry. Why does that depend for you?
Because of the situation I'm going through right now. My ex living in my house with my kids, and I'm paying child support. You feel me?
Okay.
Because it's easier for me to move than it is for them. You know what I'm saying? At least I know they well kept. I know where they at. You understand? It's easier for me to bounce even on after that, because I've been blessed after I did that. Two evils. But both people being evil, you ain't gonna win. You understand? So I accept the fact, and I changed. I was evil, just as evil as I wasn't just as evil as her, but I was evil too. You understand?
So I'm not understanding,
but the situation,
Jerry. I'm not understanding though how you equating what you're talking about as to why that is more of an economic hardship on you than a woman? Because you said it depends. So how does that compare?
Because for one, I have to find a place to stay. You understand? They staying in my house.
No, you don't. Okay, but no, we're not talking about that. I'm talking about you get a woman pregnant. I'm talking about you get a woman pregnant. What we're talking about is I don't think anybody could deny that the immediate impact on that woman is far greater than it is on you. You're not walking around with your belly growing. You're not eating for two. You're not dealing with health issues. You're not going to doctor's appointments. You're not having to immediately adjust your life. Jerry, we talking in a vacuum. Yeah, you can choose to go. Do you guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
we can't carry baby.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't think anybody would deny that. But I want to hear in terms of on a greater sense past that, how does it depend about the economic disadvantages? So any man, I want you to go from there. You guys said it depends. I know Tasha said it as well. But that's a point I want to talk about, because for far too many women, the economic responsibility and disadvantages are immediate. So I want you guys to talk about that.
So when I said it depends, if you're in a relationship, if you're married, well, and I thought you were referring to as far as, Darius here talk about the doctor bills and what it costs to have a baby. Mm-hmm. Well, oftentimes they're on our insurance. So we're taking care of that. If you're in my household, I'm taking care of the bills. I want to take care of my child, right, and get that child, keep that child healthy and all those things. But the actual financial responsibility, for most women who have babies, they can't work for a little while, so we have to work. So that's what I thought you were referring. You was referring to.
Stop you right there on 2 points. Let me stop you right there on 2 points. Number one. You're referring to a situation where a woman is in a stable relationship, like you said.
That's why I said it depends, right?
So are
you talking about a single person?
Because here's the thing, Jay, we're not. I don't think having this conversation on those guys.
Okay.
What we're talking about is a greater picture of situations where that guy's not in. Hell, he don't even have insurance. And so the woman's got to deal with on a different end. And then you said that if a woman's having a baby, she doesn't work. Most women I know now literally work damn near up until it's time to delivery. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's a point to make as well. I've worked with women over the last few years, and I'll be damned if they didn't go out right before they was about to deliver the baby. Now, the other part to talk about that I think may be a little unfair is how they might work up until I've never been pregnant, so I don't understand the whole trimester kind of thing. They work up to whatever time to deliver the baby, but then they get an extended amount of time off where the man doesn't. So that's an inequality. But I just wanted to bring up the point that women do work right up until the point till they damn near drop that baby. And then there are a lot of guys that are not like you, Jay, don't have good insurance, aren't like you, Jerry, that's going to the doctor's appointment. So what about the economic impact for those women?
So I can't disagree with you on that. If in a situation like that, yeah, immediate impact, negative impact is going to be mostly on the mother.
Yeah, but
so
Jay,
I can't. That's just a fact. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but Jay, those are the women that don't take those men for child support. Majority of those
whoa. I gotta let you women step into that. Say that again, Jerry. Repeat that again, my brother.
The men that you're talking about, the ones I know, is not paying child support. That's right. The women is not taking them for child support. They're not.
So you saying the women that's having economic hardship?
A lot of women is not taking their big dads for child support. A lot of them not.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Are you saying that a lot of women that are experiencing economic hardship, those are the ones that's putting the child on child support?
No, they not taking them fathers for child support.
So in this instance, you're for them putting the man on child support so that they don't experience economic hardship.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to be clear. I just want to be clear the point you're making.
honestly, if I misconstrued B, yo, you
No,
made it. You got to pay for it. You know what I'm
no.
saying?
That's
Now,
why
one
we
thing,
here. We want to get an understanding.
one thing you said, B, is about you need to know who you laying with. I had somebody I was laying with, and they swear to God that they would never take me to child support, never. And I always took care of my kids. You understand? But
Okay.
a scorned woman have
So,
no feeling.
okay, so let me play devil's advocate on that question since you threw it out there, you know. So you laid down with a woman who swore she was never going to put you on child support.
Swore.
You fucked her without a condom.
Huh? I was
She
married.
wasn't gonna put him on child
You
support.
raw dog. You went raw
I was
dog.
married. I was married. I married her. Yeah, I did go
Okay,
raw.
so this was your wife. This was your wife you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear because I thought you were saying in the instance
ex,
that,
yeah.
man, maybe I would never put you on child support.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 and now here we are. Now you wrong for putting me on child support.
Yeah.
It's like a crapshoot.
But now, Black, I think
crapshoot.
you might want to get the comment because you got two different types of people. What we're talking about here. So, are you talking about the deadbeat dad and the female that's not taking it? Yeah. Okay.
No. Let me be clear. I know exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm correcting you on the fact of that when you're making statements, I'm letting you know that we're not talking about you. Because we wouldn't be having this conversation if all guys out there had a great job and had insurance, was doing everything right.
So I get your point. So here's my question.
Go ahead.
So you're talking about the deadbeat dad, and you talk about the immediate impact on the female. I'm trying to get your point. So how does that? Where are you going with this? Because I want to be able to answer it, intelligently.
Did I confuse anybody else?
No, but let me ask this question.
But I'll answer you.
You have deadbeat moms, and you know what I see? You got deadbeat moms, and you have some fathers. They won't take the women for child support. Get their kids and take them for child support. How about that?
Okay, so Sherry's going on a different tangent, but my question arose, Jay, from the point that was made
that's
about
what we see up here.
economics.
I don't know where y'all at.
That's where my question arose from. So I was asking a question that I wanted to establish that do we all agree that the immediate economic impact, it falls harder on the woman, because the point was raised earlier about economics. So that's where the point came into play.
Okay. All right. So I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
I got you.
So yeah.
But then that's why I said when I went around the dais, you guys were saying it depends. So I was giving y'all a chance to explain why it depends. And so when you were saying that for you, that that woman's economic impact is not going to be felt on her because it's incurred on you. So I was making you understand that that's different. So I agree with you that in that instant, it does depend. But we know that for every last one of you, and you, and you, and you, there's 100 guys, Jay, that don't have insurance, that aren't there. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, what we're talking about is the necessity of child support that in this instance, because I'm going back and forth, this is one of those instances where maybe it is necessary because she has to do something to supplement that income. Am I wrong?
No, it's definitely necessary.
No, you're right.
Jay, am I wrong?
Right.
So here's my response to that, Black. Not that you're wrong. I've said it from the very outset. When it comes to men and women who are not taking care of their responsibility, obviously there's a need. You have to have a third party to intervene. That goes without saying. I think most of the guys that have been negatively impacted is that it's not fair because the court system assume that we're not doing what we're supposed to do, and then rake us over the coal. And then our women who know that we're good fathers, who know that we want to be in a child's life, they use that to even further put their foot on our necks. Well, we're paying child support every week or every 2 weeks, and 99.9% of the time, they still have a child.
I do not disagree with you. But you keep
talking about the guys. You keep talking about the guys that are not doing what they're supposed to do, and the guys not doing what they're supposed to do. What about the women that are not doing what they're supposed to? Why is it that the child has to be in that household first? Put him in my household.
Okay. So for me, again, so I'm gonna say it again. If you felt in any way that I was swaying it towards making the guys, I stated at the very beginning the myth of the deadbeat dad. Did I not say that?
You did say that, but you keep going back to it's 100 dads out there that's not doing what they're supposed to do. I can't argue that.
Okay, so since you and I are talking, so are you objecting to the fact that there are deadbeat dads?
No, I've said that. I said that from the outset.
Your point. Then I don't understand.
I think his point is that he's trying to say that instead of saying deadbeat dads, which you did point that out at first, but what he's saying is not only dads, it's mothers as well.
So Darcel said that she's going to be an advocate for the women, and I'm an advocate for the guys.
Right. So here's the beauty of this. We hadn't got to that point. We hadn't got to the point where we talked about what the women are doing wrong. We hadn't got there. But you're calling me out for raising.
No, I'm not calling. I'm just talking.
But that's what it feels like. You're calling me out for raising legitimate questions because I hadn't got to the point yet where the women abuse the system, because we know that happens too.
Yeah.
But okay. I'm only steering this conversation. The reality is I'm not driving this bus. I'm interjecting from where you guys are taking me. I'm just simply raising questions. But that you brought that up, let's talk about it. So you make a very valid point, which one that I agree with you 1,000%. We know women take advantage of the system. We know that they disproportionately get custody. I even mentioned, I asked the same question to the women. Why is it? To talk about the fact that a woman has to have a needle on her arm before the courts will give them to the man. That's a fact. That's a fact.
I don't know why that is.
So now they're going to get a chance to address that part. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Can I say something?
Please step in.
I just want to say it's not just about the economic impact that it has on women. It's about the emotional, the physical. When I've been pregnant twice, I have 2 kids. Like, y'all just really don't understand how much your body changes, how your self-esteem changes, how the weight gain changes you. Y'all don't get any of that. All you do is help make the baby. And you don't understand the impact that it has on your marriage, your relationship, if you're in a marriage or a relationship. You know, when I had my children, for instance, you know, I went from being, you know, smaller to gaining almost 80 or 90 pounds with each child. And y'all don't get the effects when you have to go to a specialist for this because your child's not healthy and you got to go, you know, you're there for support, but it's not happening to you per se because you're not carrying that child. Nobody's testing you. Nobody's sticking their fingers up your hoo-ha, checking to see where the baby's at. I mean, y'all, honestly, that's everything that happened. You don't have a C-section scar from when you had a baby. So, I mean, yeah, it impacts you to a certain extent. And yes, you love that child as much as I do, but you didn't carry the child. You didn't go through all the side effects that I went through, you know? So it's not just about the economic impact. And that's why the courts tend to look more toward the woman because they see that, or, you know, they're supposed to see and, you know, sympathize with the woman because, yeah, she carried that baby. You know, she went through all this for that baby. And yes, you may be a good father and hopefully, you know, you are, but, I'm 30 pounds heavier or, you know, 70 or 80 in some cases, but, you know, it's a lasting effect.
To raise based on what you're saying, but I don't want you to forget your point. I don't want you to lose your point.
I just got a question, but go ahead.
Shoot. No, because I don't want you to forget the question. Shoot.
Because I had one.
All those changes your body went through, all those hardship you went through.
Yeah.
Your children, did you want to have them, or is that something that you just happened as an accident? One night stand.
I was planning.
You wanted children.
Yes.
And you knew what all entailed in having a child. Did you not?
Not necessarily. I didn't know. You know, I didn't know how much weight I would gain. I didn't know if I would have stress.
Okay, fine. So the first one you didn't know. How many kids you got?
There
The first
are
one you
some
didn't know.
things that you don't know, huh?
So the
What'd
first
you
one you
say?
didn't know. The first one you didn't know, right? That I give you
Yeah,
that. So how about the
yeah.
second one that you understand that after having the first child, man. So why would you want to go through that again?
But my first experience, it was totally different from my second experience. There was things that happened with the second that I could say, oh, my first one was kind of an easier pregnancy. The second one was totally different. You can't anticipate those things.
Got that.
So you're leading to my question. You're leading to my question. So Jay
Mhm.
raises an interesting point. So what
Yeah.
about those women who have multiple children? If the experience is so bad and you already have a father that's not paying, why would you have 3, 4 kids? And again, I'm not talking to you specifically, but the
Yeah.
same way I addressed it with the men, is it fair then that women can expect to be covered financially when they make a conscious decision to have multiple kids? So if where you saying that okay, the changes to my body, I have to go to a specialist and this and that. What about those women who aren't taking care of babies and doing the right things, prenatal care, things like that? They're literally popping out babies like roaches and mice. And then they still expecting the man to come along and have to foot the bill. Oh, and by the way, let's not even talk about having the baby. What about when the kid is 3, 4 years old and the mother decides, you know what, I want to put him in soccer. Oh, that I want to change that up. And so now I want to put him in ballet or this and that. And the expectation is that the guy got to step in and pay for those decisions when he is a non-custodial parent and you're making all the decisions. Ladies, is that fair?
Nope. And because what Jay said to D was going to be my question, because again,
Mhm.
if I know I'm 32 years old and I hear women all the time talk about the changes their body go through, hearing from my
Mhm.
mother, my grandmother, and of course, because I have this computer in my hand, why would I do that? Why would I put myself through that with it possibly being this outcome to where I'm going to have to rely on someone else to provide for my child who may or may not be stable? Why would I do
Okay.
that? What's the gain? Why would I do that?
I will tell you because the outcome of having a child is so amazing. The benefits outweigh the risks 100 times. Like I would do it all over, even though my second pregnancy was the horror of my life. I would do it all over again just to have my child. Like I breastfed both my children, and to look down at that baby, I mean, that is the best feeling in the world. And that's
I
what I'm
can do that
saying.
with someone
Like,
else's baby.
huh?
I didn't
I
hear
can look down at someone else's baby and
But
do the
you
same
can't,
thing, and
But
like,
you
oh,
can't,
Goo
you can't
gaga.
birth somebody else's baby. You can't, you don't go through the experience of having the child and being the first person they see, the first time they walk, the first time they say mama, the first tooth, the first hair. You don't get all that with somebody else's baby. It's the
No, to be
experience of having a child,
uncomfortable though
knowing
for
that
a
this is,
lifetime
but that's your
obligation, because
legacy.
it's
That's a
an
double standard.
obligation, is a
But that's
lifetime.
your legacy. I mean, but yeah, it is a lifetime obligation, but it's your legacy, and your children are the best legacy you can leave. You can have all the money in the world, but your children are always going to be the best legacy that you could ever leave.
I
So
don't
the
think Jeffrey
experience,
Dahmer's mother would agree that
it,
that's her
it,
best legacy.
what I've come to,
Okay.
but I
but
bet
what I'm,
she still
hey,
Get
loves
get
that child no matter
get
what. She loves him no
we'll
matter
agree with
what.
that. Get in there, Derek. Get in there, Derek.
hey, what I'm listening to D, what she's saying, I understand that for her perspective, but what I've gotten from the question that was asked about some of these women out here that has these multiple children, I'm not saying all, but there's quite a few of them are actually doing it for financial reasons to get that benefits or that medical care or that funding, so they don't have to work and they can just sit at home. And that's what a lot of women are doing that.
Because I
I'm
want
not
to read
saying
something
all.
to you guys. Exactly. Look,
No,
not everybody's Daracel who
Right.
may be a great caring mother and just wants the best for her child. We know that we have some of those. So we're not disparaging women saying they're bad mothers. So please don't go out there thinking we're saying that. But we also know in real life there are generational rats out there who have used the system for multiple generations that they have no intention of working, of having an income, because having a kid is an income. And if you don't believe me, I want to read something to you guys. Somebody talked about earlier how from state to state, I think you, Darcel, said how the laws are different each state. Terry lived in Texas. I want to read something that happens in Texas. It talks about the Texas determines what a non-custodial parent's income is. If he says zero, well, there isn't zero child support. There will often be a presumption that he should be working full-time, full year, at least minimum wage. So get this, people. The judge will often set what's called the minimum wage order, and it's about $215 a month in Texas, which is about 20% of your net income of that. So here's a father who is now going to owe $215 a month, plus about $50 a month in medical support, and he did not even disclose that he had even income at the time. Let's talk. And what if the father's not even in court? So he didn't disclose his income, but the judge sets an order, and the moment she walks out of that court, he's $275. Did I add it right? He's $265 a month. How is that fair?
Should have went to court.
That's the answer, y'all.
You should have went to court. Thank you, Tasha.
Guys,
You went to court.
Sometimes,
said anything. You haven't said anything, my brother. Come on in this
sometimes he's not able to get that. He might be you know what?
Get a lawyer.
He might be at work.
He might be at work.
Trying to take care of his kids.
He might not even have.
Darcel says, get a lawyer.
A lawyer can show up on your behalf if you cannot be there. Get a lawyer.
But
And my other point is, what if you don't know you got a court date?
In some instances, they don't have a stable, which is their fault. They don't have a stable address. They don't know how to get contacted. And they found out when they get pulled over, on the side of the road. They found out they got a warrant for your arrest for child support.
So we just out here making babies with homeless men now? Is that what we do?
No. It's not that. I'm just no.
Yeah.
No, it's not no homeless. It's not nothing like that. I mean, I'm saying that individuals have relations with this guy or guy, girl, whatever, however you want to put it. They go out there and they get pregnant. They lose touch. It's that guy's fault, of course, if he doesn't take initiative to take care of that child. They lose touch or whatever. She's out there. She needs assistance. Like you said, she goes apply for assistance. He's automatically put on child support because she has his information. So it happens.
Did you guys know that even if a man goes to prison, his child support payments don't stop?
Yes.
I know that.
And the same article talks about in Texas, the average person coming out of prison is $8,000 in arrears.
Don't go to prison.
So now, question. A guy this is a two-part question, because we talked about earlier making a decision about who you lay down with. So you got women laying down with known criminals. The guy's in and out of prison, right? He's making babies, right? He's in prison. His debt is still growing. Now he comes out, the average person comes out with $8,000 debt before. Is he more likely to go find a job and actually be contributing, or go in another direction? So again, is that on the man or is that on the woman?
I have a real life story.
Please.
And I'm not gonna mention any names. I know a guy. Him and this girl, they had Terry know what I'm talking about. They had 3 children, if I'm not mistaken. And most of the children's lives, his mother took care of the children. Not her, not him, but it was in his mother's household.
Okay.
The children are grown. They were, and I think the youngest one at the time this happened, and this was fairly recent, a couple of years back, was the youngest one was like 19. Do you know that they came and locked him up for arrears and child support?
Yep.
He lost everything. He lost his apartment. He lost his job. He was locked up in jail for almost 6 months.
Yep.
And the children were grown. And mind you, the entire, most of their lives, they was raised by their grandmother, which was his mother. And you tell me how that's fair.
Your financial responsibility does not stop depending on who the child stays with.
But the person who initiated the But Daracel, the person who initiated it was the
Yes,
mother.
but
So the
it doesn't
financial
matter.
responsibility. Okay, but where's that? So the money should go to her, even though she wasn't taking care of the children.
No, the money should go to the child. The money is for the child. And that's what the
Okay.
court awards the money for. It's for the child. I
Yeah.
know women use child support money for
Well,
all kinds of things. We hadn't even gotten to that yet. I'm
yeah.
sure that's coming.
Well, let's ask that.
But
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, but the initial order for child support is always in the best interest of the child and what the child needs. I mean, we know women get their hair, their nails, and all kind of stuff done with child support money. But the intention of child support is good. It's supposed to be for the care of the child. If you have neglected the responsibility of paying your child support for 10 or 15 years, that doesn't negate any responsibility. You still owe that money to that child, whether they're 18, 19, 24, 34. You still owe that money. I mean, I just think as a man, I mean, obviously I'm not a man, but you know, we got to hold men responsible for taking care of children that they make. And I mean, however you hold them responsible, you got to hold them responsible, whether it be a court or whatever. You got to hold them responsible. I mean, I know y'all don't like it. And I know it's not, you know, you're saying you take care of your children and that's great. But a large majority of men do not. And I mean, I'm glad that all
take
the
me
men
out of this
in the South
situation.
do.
The
Yeah.
example I just gave you. He still
You're owes
saying
the money. He owes the
okay.
money for his children. Yes.
So what does she owe? Because I said
The order, listen, and that is the responsibility of the man. You go back to court and say, hey, this woman does not live in the house. The grandmothers bring the grandmother to court to be a witness and say, yes, I've been taking care of the kids for how many years. And then the new order will be awarded to the grandmother and the mother. See, the problem with a lot of black men, y'all don't go to court. Y'all just think it's going to go away. It don't work like that.
Okay,
actually we do.
They're awarded by default. People don't realize that if you don't go to court, it's a default order. Whether it's child support, whether it's
Black was
paternity,
in
whether
court
it's
with me.
Well, not you.
Well, you're not. No. You said black men don't go to court.
A lot of black men don't go to court. They think it's gonna go away.
I know 3 black men out here now that's been to court.
They don't know the law. You have to know the law. You
was
have to know the
outraged
law.
when a judge ruled against me.
I witnessed.
Freddie, stop me when I'm lying.
I witnessed this with my own eyes.
Stop me when I'm lying.
I witnessed this with my own
All
eyes.
right.
I got
Court
court documents.
Okay.
Where was the mother?
Say what?
Where was the mother?
In the courtroom.
The court.
No.
So let me just
I'm
throw this out
asking you
there.
about
Let me just throw this because
scenario you just gave. You
Oh,
said,
okay, right.
You said that the kids was with the father and his mother.
It was with the grandmother, right? Mm-hmm.
Right. Where was the mother?
She was doing her thing. She was an absentee mom.
Wait a minute. So she just left the kids on the father.
On the grandmother. The grandmother took the kids.
I love the dialogue. It gives me energy.
Right. So the children were with the grandmother. The grandmother raised the children. So neither one of the parents really raised the children. It was his mother. She came back and filed for child support, for arrearages, so forth, and back pay, and won. They literally locked him up for 6 months.
Well,
did the guy go to court?
He was locked up. Well, yeah, he was in court when they took him
Don't
before the
get locked
judge.
up. I said it once. Don't get locked up.
Terry, give us your take.
yeah, I think like it's easy for some women to make the statements that they make because they always on the easy side of the fence. Like, you know, when you say like men should go to court, yeah, it's easy for you to say go to court because you don't have to pay a dime, right? You know, so like my brother said, I've been to court, and I had to get a lawyer and pay all these expenses. And my ex, she did not show up to court, and even though she didn't show up to court, she still won.
She got that money.
She still got the money. You know, so I do agree with her statement. More men need to show up to court, but I think what's going to change everything, and it's happening right in front of our eyes, is more women are being put on child support. You know, if you look at Halle Berry, she's on child support. I think the Spice Girls, she's on child support. When they start putting your ass on child support and they start taking money out your check, right? And it starts affecting your life. And then when your baby father start hitting you up, like, yeah, I want to buy my kids some J's, like, where's half of it? And you think it's unnecessary. I want to put my child on the type of support that you don't agree with. Let me see how you start reacting. But right now, it's
No,
pretty easy for most women, not all women.
but
Yeah.
I
You know,
agree with
Terry,
Terry.
that's why
But
I don't
Terry,
make babies with people I don't
Hey,
know. I need to know
yeah,
your
but I agree
character.
with
I
Terry.
need to know your financial situation. I need to know your criminal situation. Like, we ain't having no kids together if I don't know all that. So I know where we stand if we get divorced,
right.
if we break up, or and we have kids together.
I understand that, but like Forrest Gump says, shit happens. So like,
Don't have
like
children. That brings me back to my point. Don't have it, then you won't be in this
No,
situation. Boom.
Josh
the
is
thing
all
is,
Right
about
there.
that don't even
Don't
have
have
but
kids at all.
I
So
wasn't gonna leave like men off the hook. So earlier part in the conversation, yeah, like women do have it hard. Man, we can sit here and bitch and complain all we want, but you're not carrying a child for 10 months. Your body doesn't change. Organs inside
Right.
your body not being pushed around. You don't have to go through your feet swelling up. You don't have to go through being uncomfortable in your bed for several months. You don't have to push anything out. You don't have to get cut open. You don't. And I had a friend who had one of his friends call and get his baby mama a hard time. And when I found out about it, I gave the friend who called a hard time. I said, look, even though he's our friend, like he's out partying, having a good time, while the mother's sitting at home taking care of the child. When you're a single mom, and I've been there for my daughter. And when you put your child in daycare, every day you go there, there's a new disease, hand, foot, mouth disease. Anytime your child has to leave daycare, you have to leave work. So those
Mhm.
guys who have all this free time, imagine that, not having any special time or free time to yourself. So yeah, guys, I'm not gonna leave you off the hook either.
So
I love
Terry, can
love
I say one thing to you? Because our last conversation, you were just talking about how women should lower their standards because we gained a little weight and had kids and all this. So
Mhm.
now you're kind of defending the women on that. So
because
Well,
those
are
I can
you?
see both
those are two
sides,
separate things, sweetheart.
but I see what she's saying. I can see both sides. I'm not a one-sided person. Well, I like to think that anyway.
I
No,
got you.
well, what I like what he did is he brought to life the realistic physical conditions that women go through, and that's what I was saying at
Right.
the very beginning. I think we all can agree that the immediate impact we
Yeah,
can't deny that we can't do anything about that. We
and
don't
you
we're not going to carry a baby.
and you know what, Freddie? And let me say this for the record. I'm emotional about it because
I know,
my experience about it.
I know.
But I will say this for the guys who've actually been in that operating room. I
Right,
was in there when my baby
right,
was born,
right.
Mhm.
and watched them cut open my wife, and then my other child. I saw that the birth of my child. It does change you. You're like, wow,
Mhm.
and it gives you a whole other appreciation. And for the good fathers, you're like, you know what? I want to be there. Having seen that, what you guys go through, oh my God, it
Mhm.
makes us want to be there even
I
more.
can't watch it. I can't even
Yeah,
watch
it's you come out there with a whole nother level of
it.
appreciation for what
That's
women go
my
through.
personal
So
opinion.
that's undeniable. That's undeniable.
Yeah.
So, but to kind of go back to what Tasha was saying, like you know what you got to go through. I hear women all the time. I want to have another child. They got two or three. They want another child because, like Dara said, they want that. They want to see that baby and them grow up and say their first word and take their first walk. I get it. But when
Which
you do that with a guy that you are just dating or some one night stand, what do you expect to happen?
let's take it to the next
I
level.
want to. Can I tell my story?
Hold
Yes,
on.
we need to hear Candace. We haven't heard her yet. We got to hear
Yeah.
her.
I'm gonna let her tell a story. We take it to the next level on that one point. So to your point, Ariel, that childbirth can't be this whole tragic thing that they hate so much because you have far too
Mhm.
many women again using it as a weapon. We got famous people who having babies with rappers and singers because it's a way of income. You know what I'm saying? You got different ones who you're sleeping. You said a moment ago. You said I know who I'm sleeping with and having babies by, right? Now,
Yeah, I do.
so you're one of those women doing it within the confines of marriage. But we know we got some hoes out there that's targeting basketball players, targeting football
Mhm.
players, targeting
Yeah.
actors because it can't be too terrible to go through. They cherish the moment and they can't wait to post it on Instagram, Facebook, and social media because they want the world to know that not only do I have a baby by Lil Wayne, I got one by this one too and by that one too. And so you've got a built-in system where now that person's paying you an income and it chaps my soul that these people are that when they see their name, they classify it as some model. No, you're not. You're just a professional hoe.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Can I say this though, Black?
Go ahead, Candace.
Black. First of all, not every
Y'all
the average
my opinion out of it. I really,
the average Black man is not a basketball player or a star. So I want to make that clear right now. But
We know
But
that.
there's
Yeah,
women,
we
there's
know
women
that.
going out here
I
for
know,
guys that
but
work at McDonald's too.
I know. I've
famous now.
yeah. I've been
Same hoe is still having babies for the guy that's pushing cars at Walmart. Let's not play now.
I know, but I want to say this. I've been looking at your comments. I've been in your comments. A lot of generalizations have been made. I was a baby mama. So I want to tell my story. I met my son's father in college. We did not work out. I ended up getting pregnant. He decided that he didn't want to marry me. So we went our separate ways. We decided on what he would pay me. He did not have the money to pay at that time, which I was fine with. But I went through a hard time where I lost my job, everything, where I had to file for emergency assistance. The state of Texas was like, "Oh, where's the father of your child at?" I'm like, "Why? Why? It's just me, because I didn't. Me and him have always been on good terms. I didn't want them coming after him or anything like that. So I'm like, why? He's gone away. They were like, well, no, if you're on assistance and you have a child, he needs to be responsible. So they put him on, and they were like, how much? When you were paying for health insurance, how much were you paying on your job? Because my kids have always been on my health insurance. So they're like, how much were you paying for this? What did you guys agree upon when you first agreed? So I was like, oh, just $100 a month. I said something low where they wouldn't tack on, but it ended up coming to like $415, and they put him on child support. He got to like $30,000 in back child support. I went to Texas to sign a paper to forgive that because yes, I know a situation or whatever. He paid me a lump sum of some money, and I was good with it. Do you not know when I asked, how do I take him off? Because I'm married now. My current husband, yeah, they would not take him off the child support. They were like, why are you forgiving his child support? And I said, well, because he's still there for my son. He's still in his life. Even though he cannot be there financially, he was there for my son for everything else. Anytime I needed, like when my son had the flu, he flew down to Texas, took care of my son, all of that. And so Texas was not playing. So it's a lot of times it's not bitter mothers, it's that state too, as well.
I will say this. Can I say one thing to Candace's comment? Like I commend your, ex for being there, but he's responsible for the rounded care, not just being there. He's financially responsible too. I mean, I know his situation was a little bit different where he couldn't, but I feel like, man, you're totally responsible just as much as the mother. So you were in a hardship because he couldn't help out with a child. He still should be financially responsible. I mean, you're nice, way nicer than I am.
No, I feel that too, but I guess I feel like this. Economically, he wasn't, like I said, I met him in college. I was naive. Now, as a grown woman, no, that is not somebody that I would lay down with to have a child with, but at that time,
right.
So I know his situation. If I put him on child support and he's in jail, how am I going to get child support? Like, it don't even make any sense to me. So what's the point? It was just, I can take care of my child. So,
fellas, anybody want to comment on that story? Anything?
I just had a question for Candace, but you didn't ask me, so go ahead. I'm sorry, y'all.
I want to hear Tasha's question.
That's why I said I don't need a mute button. I like the energy, and I like people that address it with. So go ahead. What's your question, sweetie?
My only question is okay, if they had asked you who the father was and you didn't know who it was, what would they have done then? If you said it was a dark night, it was a bunch of them, I don't know.
I have no idea. I didn't think of that.
I guess that's my thing. I would have been like, I don't know.
Well, they could have pulled up the birth certificate because he signed the birth certificate.
I was going to say, it depends on if there's a name on the birth certificate. If there's a name on the birth certificate, they will track down that person or try to and do a DNA test. If they don't show up to court, by default, the woman's awarded. If there's nobody on the birth certificate and you have no idea, then it's just where it stands, and you don't get anything.
He's signed.
Anything before I bring another point in?
Well, no, I just want to say that I wish more women was like Candace. It sounds like she was one of the...
Candace, Terry applauded you as well.
Yeah, so like she's one of those women that was trying to work with her baby daddy, not trying to hurt him. You can't help what other people do. But that brings up a greater point. The system the child support system is broken. And I think that may be the crux of this conversation between the system itself, what it's morphed into, and then oftentimes as a people, what we do to our black men and our black women. That's what I'm hoping that this discussion may help some people kind of realize.
Which brings me to, I listed 4 reasons why the child support system is broken and needs to be fixed. You talked on one of them, Jay. The current system fixates on enforcement and ignores involvement. I'm gonna read some facts to you guys. The Federal Parent Locator Service uses a national database to track down non-custodial parents and enforce payment. In 2013 alone, that was $32 billion. In 2017, it was $117 billion of business. It says, where is that? I wrote down, where is that same focus on custodial statutes? Because the National Parents Organization report card, this is a report card that rates every single state and bases their statistics on what happens when children from a divorce or breakup. And it rated these states on a scale of 4, 1.63. That's how poor of a job they're doing and truly caring for the children. And so there's no shortage of evidence that shared parenting offsets the negative effects of divorce and separation. The focus should be on that, but it's not, because it's a business.
It's a business.
Your point,
exactly, Jim. Exactly. So, Candace, I got a quick question. You said they put him on child support, what, for $415, something like that?
Yeah, $415 a month. That
was that the amount you were getting?
No.
Exactly.
No. Yeah, that's why I said it's pointless. And I put it in the comments. Sometimes these men are going through financial hardship as well, so it's not even enough to cover a light bill. So that's why I'm like, if I can take care of my child, I'd rather just do that. I mean, if he wants to contribute, yes, I love that. But I can't depend on child support because just like me, he's going through a hardship as well.
I have a question, Black.
But
I don't know
contributing to raising your child it should not be an option. I mean,
Right.
It's not an option. Like, I don't have the option just to not take care of my children. I mean, I don't feel like I do. And men shouldn't either. It shouldn't be an option.
I agree, Dee, but realistically, like, I just had to take it for what it was. So
I got a point to that, but I want
the person I chose.
I got a point for you to get your question in, please.
Yeah, I just want to ask the women. I know it varies by what state you live in, but if you only had one child, how much do you think a man should pay for child support per month?
Honestly, I think it depends on how much he's making versus how much I make. And I mean, my kids go to private school, so
I think it varies. Like, my son is asthmatic, so my son has asthma.
So depending on how much he make, huh? Wow.
So listen, y'all. Obviously, the lesson here is don't have no kids with me. So.
But the thing is, though, think about it. Daycare alone, a lot of times for a baby is $1,000. So
right. And listen, my kids go to private school. We like to go on vacation, and it's not in this country. There's a lot of things. So I feel like my kids are accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and they should continue that whether we are together or divorced. So part of your pay is making sure they keep up with that lifestyle. And so however much that may be. Yeah.
And I guess, can I say this? The reason why I have my ideas about that, I am one of those children that grew up in a single parent home. My mother had 3 baby daddies. And so already she's a statistic. When it came to child support, she didn't necessarily, she did take our fathers to court, but she didn't depend on that. And she never talked about our fathers in a negative light. And so maybe that's why I have that idea. She just took accountability for her part, and she raised us, and she made sure we went to school and all of that. And she left it up to the men to decide whether or not they wanted to be in our lives and contribute. So maybe that's why I have that attitude.
And I love that Daracel said that. You read a second reason why I think the child support system is broken. It's because it's unfair to fathers. 29% of fathers. No, this is statistics. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. So what I'm gonna give you is numbers because I agree with what you're saying for your situation, and you chose well. But how many women out there choosing well like that? So let's give some statistics here now. 29% of families live below the poverty line. That means that there isn't any money to get. You see, and the unpaid payments, what that equals is alienation and incarceration. Jay talked about the example that if somebody can't pay, rather than giving that person the opportunity to be in that child's life, you're gonna lock him up. That's the system. Many states, and what it talks about, it says many states report incarceration without unemployment. That actually means the child support payments continue to accumulate. So this person who may want to be in that child's life, who may want to really be a part of it and be a contributing factor, the moment he sets foot out of jail, we talked about this, he's already in arrears. He's not happy doing that. So not in a position to where he can do anything. And so if you got a $30,000 debt standing over you, there's no way he can pay that. That's just not realistic. And so Terry asked the question, how much do you think a person should pay? Now, I agree with you, Daracel, on the principle that he have to pay something, but it should be commensurate with this employment. But what makes the system broken is that if I'm a guy and I owe you $30,000, you know what I'm going to do? Even if I get a good job, I'm not going to report it. I'm not going to tell you because I'll be damned if I'm going to work for 2 weeks and then when I go to pick up my check, it's being all of it's taken.
So you can fly to Paris.
Well, not only that.
No, I'm talking about Daracel, so she can fly to Paris and go visit
with
the
your kids. Yeah, with your kids though. With
my
your
kids are right here in the States.
I'm paying for me. You paying for
I
your
wonder
kids.
if she really means that. So you said it depends on how much he makes and you make. So let's say you hit the lottery. Does that mean you should pay more?
The kids are with me, so I think, and we said this before. I don't think
last week's question.
No matter how much I make, he still has a financial responsibility to take care of our kids. And if I'm a billionaire, if he paying me $200 a month, that's something. Like you ain't gotta pay me $1,000 or $2,000 a month that you was paying before, but you gotta pay me something.
So a woman should never pay. Basically, what you're saying, a woman never pays.
No, I'm saying if the kids are with the man, yeah, the woman should have to pay. Whoever the kids are with, the other person is financially responsible.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So you made the comment that she chose well, right? So your children's father, I know you're married, so hypothetically speaking, if it's out of way, let's use Candace's situation. So he's a good father, he's a good dad for all intents and purposes, does everything he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So he says to you, well, I want shared custody. But you have a problem with that?
No.
You have a problem with that?
I know that he's a good dad. I know that he takes I'm not gonna be worried about my kids when they're with him. So yeah, we ain't even gotta go to court to do that. We can.
So if you had shared custody, are you saying that he still need to give you some money? If he having 50% of the time and you have 50% of the time?
That's the caveat. If what is he doing? Is he financially taking care of them? Is he buying them clothes?
Why does it matter what I'm doing?
I don't agree with that.
I'm gonna say if he's like, well, if I say, hey, they're going on a field trip because of course my kids go to this bougie school, so they always go on bougie ass trips to Greece and all this. So if I say, hey, they're going to Greece, and in like a couple months, and he's like, oh, well, I gotta pay this bill, then we go into court because I'm sorry.
If we have shared custody. If we have shared custody, if you chose to take him to Greece,
it's shared financial responsibility. I'm not paying 100%.
But you chose to take the child to Greece, not me. So
no, we the parents, we paying for the child to go to Greece. I'm gonna pay for one. You gonna pay for one. That's how that works. That's shared.
That is the reason why that you need to go to court to get stuff lined out about put in writing what is deemed required and what's not.
Well, that's not shared anyway because that's one-sided. So when she said
Yeah,
shared,
that's
what if I
not.
want to take the kids to Paris? You know, where's
You can
your money at?
listen. You can take them, and I got half. I'm not. It's not one sided. If they're with you and they want to go to Paris or Greece or whatever, and you need, I got you. That's what I'm not saying that. But anytime if we got kids and there is I ain't got it. I gotta pay this. When it comes to your children, no, it's a one time no. All I gotta hear is no once because financially we're both responsible. It don't matter if they with you half the week and they're with me half the week. It's not just the time, it's also the financial responsibility.
So
You
it's
have
not.
to take care of your children.
So
So it's
that's why
not the
this conversation I think
necessity
is
that we're trying to
so
cover.
So let me
so
get.
valuable because
So let me
what your
get.
perspective, Daracel, is very dangerous and contributing to a
Which
lot
let
of
me
the
get.
downfall of good men. I'm
Which
telling
let me
you.
get to number three.
It's
Which
not.
I told,
It's
I
not.
told you
It's
for a
my
reason.
opinion.
So that's right. I told you for a reason, which just brings me to number three. It reinforces the deadbeat dad myth. Once Congress passed that law, you give stricter laws of enforcement, it was all based on a myth. But it allows the government to be able to step in to reinforce the idea that no matter what the circumstances are, the guy has to pay, even if it's not a fair share. And again, these laws have empowered the welfare reform based on the Welfare Reform Act. It gives governments the power to lock men up. And unfortunately, guys, this falls primarily on minorities
Mhm.
because we're the ones that live below the poverty level. And so when you see the system hailing somebody as a dad that won't take care of his kids, like Jay said at the very beginning, it's not because that father don't want to be in those kids' lives, but he's facing a system that he cannot climb that wall. And the deck is stacked against him from the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? So say I said to you a moment ago, you chose well. He might have thought he chose well, but the system is stacked in a woman's favor to where, boom, if you don't want to send my kid to Greece, I'm gonna report you. I'm gonna lock your monkey ass up.
I'll say this, like I rather it affect a man's credit versus him going to jail. Now, when my son's father was trying to buy all these cars and stuff, it was on his credit. And so I like the fact that he was willing to pay me some money to get it off his credit, which is why I forgave it.
It's
So
funny you say that, Candace.
I will say this. I don't agree with guys going to jail over child support because it does. I mean, how you gonna pay if you in jail? But like, time is not financial responsibility. I think like
keep 'em
guys.
working right there, Sal. Keep them working.
But that's what, yes, keep them working. But that's what I'm saying. You even if you spend time with your
I
child, you're
love her.
still
I love her.
financially responsible. You are still financially. I
love her.
don't agree with them going to jail because if you're in jail, you can't work and you can't pay.
I do.
But
I do.
I
I
love her.
do. I do. I say monkey ass up. My daughter was playing.
you say like a
And we
mess.
sat down and we had this discussion about we gonna have a baby. It ain't no question for me whether you're gonna take care of her. You're gonna take care of her. And that's
Right.
it. That's how
Take
it's
their
like,
check, take their income tax check,
Terry, go ahead.
take
Go ahead.
whatever you need to take.
Go
you
ahead,
ain't
Terry.
got to be a
Terry,
mom.
go ahead.
I don't care.
Terry, you had a thought.
No, I was gonna comment on Candace her remark. I hate to get all futuristic, but you know, if you paid attention to China, that's probably what's gonna happen in the future. Instead of going to jail, it's gonna impact your credit. Like they got this thing
Mhm.
called a social reputation. So in the future, everything's gonna be based on your social reputation, whether you can fly,
Wow.
you know, whether you get an apartment.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of coming. So yeah.
Wow.
So we're
Wow.
always
Wow.
talking about the problem, but maybe that is a solution. Instead of
Wow.
impacting you, sending you to jail, maybe it impacts your credit some type of way.
Which leads
But
me
do you really think? Sorry, do you
No,
really
go
think the guys that don't pay their child support care about their credit score?
well,
I mean,
my son's father did because he had his own business, and so he was trying to get like cars and things for his business, and he couldn't. So he was like, "Hey, let me pay you this money." He paid me a lump sum, and I was like, "Okay, cool." So
which
I
brings
went
me
down
to
and
my
signed the
last which brings me to my last point of why the child care system is broken, because overall it's just really unfair all the way around. You know, what was originally started as a bipartisan thing It was originally, going back to the beginning of this conversation, it was originally set up to reform the nuclear family to answer for divorce. But the reality is, this is laws that was 40 years ago. 40 years ago on the book, when the traditional roles was that the man was the breadwinner, the woman stayed at home. It's time to reform this whole system. It's broken because traditional roles no longer apply. As we've talked about in this conversation, there's just as many men that would take full responsibility and be glad to be the custodial parent, but the laws are against it. There are just as many men that are willing to contribute, but it's an unfair disadvantage. There's just as many men that want to participate to be in their children's lives, but the deck is stacked against them on every level. And it's time that we overhaul this and overhaul the thinking, because not every guy out there is a deadbeat, no good, Nick. And I'm even talking about the guys that don't have a job, because it does take two people to lay down and have a kid. You knew what you was getting. You liked them enough that you let him raw dog and put a seed in you. So he had to be okay when you was doing that. So my thing is, at this stage now, don't brand this guy some monster, some deadbeat dad. The system is broken on every level, and this conversation actually proves it. I don't think we settled anything, like Jay said. I don't think we settled anything, and we all entitled to our own personal views, but it highlights so many things that's wrong with it, because everybody got a story to tell. You know what I'm saying? From where Jay and Terry sit, they in their kids' lives. And Derek, I don't leave you out, I'm sorry. You in your kids' lives.
Mm-hmm.
But you've been victimized by the court system. I was in court with Jay when he went through this. But for women like Sherry and Daracel, oh no, you gonna pay. You laid down, you played, you gonna pay. I'm not mad at you. You have every right to have that expectation. Tasha say men should just be neutered to take a pill and fucking you shouldn't have no kids anyway.
Yes.
Candace is pretty much on the guy's side. It's we are all over the place with this. I'm just trying to sum this thing up. So it's
They're gonna be neutered.
Man, that's Dave.
It's gonna be morning. We all neutered.
Yeah, but
and y'all think she's joking. We have these conversations all the time. Tasha truly believes what she says. Go ahead.
I was gonna further explain it for men to understand. I think about it. Women, we can only get pregnant once a year. Essentially, it's once a year. That's all. You have to carry it for a certain amount of time. But men could honestly go around and get a different woman pregnant every day of the year. And that's why I said I think that it should be the burden on the men to have a vasectomy at a certain age. And when you get to adulthood and you realize that you want to have kids, now it's on you to have that financial burden to reverse that surgery.
Wait.
Hell no.
You do realize what a vasectomy is, right?
Vasectomy
or birth control for men. What kind of birth control for men?
Fuck that. No birth control. Make it live today. No, cut it off.
Vasectomy.
We need to go and speed up these sex robots and get rid of these women. That's we need to go ahead and speed up these sex robots and get rid of women like Tasha who think like that. You're trying to end us.
I'm not trying to end men. No. I'm not trying to end men. I just think that we have to put a cap on y'all. Whoever came up with the concept of birth control, and I believe it was a man, I want to fight him. I want to dig him up and fight him for that. Because it makes no sense. Why is it on women to have birth control, and the men y'all are the ones around here with the seed? I don't get that. That makes no sense.
That's why they make condoms.
And condoms are only effective for up to a certain percentage. But if you have that vasectomy, we'll nip that right in the bud.
Oh my God!
I've been having this conversation. That's why, fellas, that Furry Bank is a terrible, terrible thing. It'll take all the deposits you can give it. It won't give you the return on your investment. So
I will say this, Black and everybody. When I went through the court system and saw how they did Black men, that affected me. Now I'm an advocate for Black women. My YouTube channel is about Black women, but I still I see black men as kings. So I'm like, they are attacking black men. They're trying to keep him on child support. So it affected me, and I can't lie. It is systematic as well. It's a systematic racism in another form.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. And I found out. I'm gonna say this last part, then I'm gonna go around and let you guys kind of comment on this. To your point, Jay, I was wrong when I ended Saturday's show. I was like, okay, I don't have a dog in this race. I do. I really do. It affects all of us. Maybe not me directly, but indirectly. And I love your point that you made in the beginning where you talked about not saying anything. You know, the responsibility to speak up, you know, and say something. But you know, like I know, Jay, we live in a world now where that opinion is not going to be popular. You know what I'm saying? But you have to say it in a way that you hopefully you can establish some kind of common ground. And so when I was thinking of this show and moderating it, I was like, I want to do my best to keep my opinions out of it, you know, because there by the grace of God go I. I've thrown my dick on the crap table many a night and could have came up snake eyes, you know, thank God that I didn't. You know what I'm saying? So I've been one of those people that's been fortunate that, boom, I skated away from those responsibilities, but it could have happened to me easily. It could happen to me easily. And I could find myself in a situation where my whole life could change based on a system that's geared against me. You know what I'm saying? And so I do have a dog in this race. And so I wish the system would get fixed, but I don't expect that. I'm not waiting on the government to fix that. You know what I'm saying? They're making hundreds of billions of dollars on this, guys. So if you're thinking that they're going to reverse these laws, that's not going to happen. I wish I could tell you that, Jay, Terry, Derek, it's not going to happen. They've got a system in place that they're using a national database to track men down and impose fines on them. To Terry's point, we might be heading to a new system where now they're going to figure out a new way to punish you. And so that part is not going away. I will say this from what I've learned from this whole experience of it is the fact that I hope women realize that the roles have changed, that guy has as much rights as you. I advocate men to get your rights. Somebody said earlier about men don't go to court. So my message looking in the camera to men is, if you facing a system that's geared towards you, go to court. Get as much rights established as you can so you can have some say-so. And then to Terry's point, you can put her on child support too.
Yeah, they should start locking women up too.
So
yeah, but the men are gonna need a lawyer with this. The way this system is, you need a lawyer.
But it's changing. It's changing. It is, like Jay said, when you start seeing Halle Berry being put on child support, you know that it's somewhere in there. People are somewhere in there slowly starting to say, you know what, it's a little unfair. So guys, get your ducks in a row. Like Darcel said, know who you lay down with. You know what I'm saying? And be prepared. So I'm going to go around the dais, and I just want you guys to kind of tell me overall what you got from the conversation and where you stand at the end. I'm going to start with Candace. Come on.
You always start with me. But Black, I definitely feel like the child support system is broken. When I tried to take my son's father off of child support, they told me I had to get a lawyer to do that. So I just feel like this, if you make sure you know who you're laying down with. Even though as a woman out there, we can't tell how a guy is because he's one way 1 minute, and then after we get pregnant and have that child, he's different. So I'll just say this, use a condom, birth control, whatever, so you don't have to go through this, because the system is definitely trying to take us down as Black people. And that's all I have to say about that.
Touche. Derek, go, my brother.
Well, I believe of course, I believe it's broken. But I think the thing of it is they need to revamp it, which I know they're not going to because it's a moneymaker for them. But they need to find a way to punish the ones that violate and the ones that are not actually doing what they need to do. and take into account that the fathers or the mother that's paying child support that's actually doing what they need to do, is that don't punish them or make them feel like they're doing something wrong when they go to court or try to manipulate the rules that they set forth. Like, quick point, I went to a court the last time I went. The only reason why that I didn't get an increase per se is because I actually had my attorney there, and the circumstances came that it was paperwork done on the other side. The reason why they did, but it's like I was actually taking my sons off, and my daughter was getting the increase. So it was almost like it broke even.
Right.
So it's like, but is it just make sure, just make sure that you know what you're doing. Make sure you have your lawyer. If you do go to court, make sure you have your ducks in a row. Get everything lined out prior to going to court, and make sure that you got everything what you need and what you want lined out as well. Don't leave it all up to your lawyer, and don't go unprepared.
I love it. Sherry, go.
I agree with most of what Derek said, because I keep saying, but I think that if they start locking women up or holding them more responsible when they're not taking care of their kids, maybe things will change. Or putting them on child support and letting them play the man and things of these natures. I love you, nephew. I don't like the way your face is looking. I know you've been through a lot. I know you've been through a lot.
Me and Terry. Me?
You talking to you,
I
Jay?
love you. I know you've been through a lot. It's child support, you know what I'm saying?
Angry man.
You over it. You got through it. You know what I'm saying? Your kids is mostly grown and they doing their thing. You got through it. You know what? Don't let it be a lesson. That's it. And you know, because at the same time, I know you, my nephew. You was laying down in between them musty legs too. Yeah, I love you.
Oh.
I got so many of y'all. Up here.
I love you too. I love you too.
Candace, a situation, Candace, I have a cousin that had a similar situation to you. And do you know that the girl, he was so rough on her, every time they took child support out of his check, he made her pay the child support back. Eventually, she took him off child support. He off right now. You know what I'm saying? So it can't happen, you know what I'm saying? But the system is broken. But at the end of the day, you see that lady in the water holding up that torch? I mean, they give it to us mothers, but they need to make them be responsible, be accountable, because a lot of them is deadbeat moms.
That's deep. That's deep.
Good advice, sis. Terry.
Oh, okay. It's a great conversation. I would just say, for the women that do have deadbeat, fathers, don't let them off the hook. I would say keep pushing. Try to stay in there and be strong. But for the women who do have good fathers taking care of their kids, try to be a little bit more understanding and a little bit more reasonable. I would say to the men, like my father told me, if you lay down with a woman, you have a child with them, like don't bitch and complain about taking care of them. Well, of course he don't use profanity, but be prepared to take care of your child. And I will also say this to men, I hear a lot of men complain and bitch, but like you say, they do not go to court and fight. They do not want to spend their money. I will tell you this. My brother told me when I was going through this, fight for everything. Don't quit. I spent every penny that I had. And even though some think the system is broken, it is improving, because here in Texas, they show a lot of love to fathers. And I have all my legal, custodial and legal rights. So, just don't give up. Keep fighting. But great conversation.
That's what's up. D. Right.
I think I represented the women well. Let me just say that.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I also want to say, as far as the system goes, I'm not going to get into that because I haven't had the experience. But I feel like for men, if you play, you got to pay. And it's like take care of your children, and you're equally responsible financially, economically, time spent, everything is equal. And if you can't do one or the other, then I mean there may be consequences. But yeah, you want to have fun, but you don't want to, take care of the after effects. It don't work like that. So moral of the story: don't have no kids with me because you know where it's going to end up.
Well, they going to Greece.
They going to Greece, and Daddy's gonna pay half. Yes.
I love it. Jay, come on, man.
Oh man, like my aunt said, and I apologize if my expression may have been a little rough, but I mean, I'm really passionate about it, as I said before, and I agree with it. I respect everybody's opinion and the things that were said tonight. Obviously, women go through quite a bit when they have a child. Like my brother said, at the same time, we have to be responsible. We have to be accountable when it comes to our children. That's how we was raised. Mm-hmm. But as Candace mentioned, we were all young once, and we all made mistakes. And I have children outside of my marriage. But I will say this to the women, oftentimes, Black men in particular, women are our worst enemies. Our Black women are our worst enemies sometimes. Sometimes it could be a conversation. Sometimes you have to look at other circumstances and things, outside of resorting to the court system. And then, to someone's point, sometimes the court system get involved, and it's no fault of your own. But then that's where it gets to the point. That's where I guess my anger come into play, is that women, so oftentimes they get vindictive, or they get married and they use the children as leverage, and they use the children against the father. Don't do that. Don't do that. We all understand that there are deadbeat dads or deadbeat moms, and that those people, trust me, they'll get what's coming to them. But when you got a good mother, you got a good father, because at the end of the day, the one who loses is a child. That's the one who loses when you got parents on both sides that are arguing and bickering and fighting and keeping them, using that child as a pawn. And Terry's right and Derek's right. Guys, fight. It takes two people lay down and have that child. And when that child comes into this world, you have just as many rights as that mother has. And the mother is not willing to, share those custodial rights, then you have to fight. And it's not going to always be easy. It's not going to always be easy. But as always, Black, I appreciate the conversation, the dialogue. I wouldn't have got on here if I didn't think that this was is important. For the people that see this video, later on, or that are watching now, I hope they got something from it. So I just thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you. Tasha?
All right. Well, first and foremost, no, I'm just kidding. I really
want to cut it off.
There's nothing else that I could say that no one else has already said. I definitely echo everyone's sentiments. We know the system is flawed. There are problems, and with it being $1 billion industry, it's not going to change. Not overnight, because it didn't get that way overnight. But I will say this for all the parents on here who are paying child support or having to go back and forth to court. Please understand how much that is shaping your child when they see what you're going through, and how much that can influence their opinion, not only of you as the custodial parent, but also that non-custodial parent. It's so far reaching, and it lasts so longer, and it also shapes them as children going into adults of how they are going to participate in relationships themselves. And I can only tell you this as someone, again, as whose parents, both parents ended up at different times had to pay child support. So I can only tell you that this is someone who's been in. But I love the conversation, love the dialogue, and I'm always excited when everyone can just be as passionate about a subject and really contribute to it. And we didn't come on here to come up with a solution. We knew that wasn't going to happen, but I'm glad that everyone was able to express their opinions in an articulate and safe manner, so to speak. But I can't wait to see what you can make, Black.
So I want to thank all of you guys. I never know what to expect when I have these topics. I work today, and my mind, believe it or not, is always churning on, well, what can I bring to the conversation? Because unlike you guys, I don't have kids. I have a quote unquote little Jerry Springer situation, may or may not. Anybody knows me, they know what I'm talking about. But I'm not really in the mix in a sense. So I knew it was going to be personal, and I wanted it to be serious, because it's a serious topic. I want to thank you, Jay, for bringing the topic up. We don't get a chance to talk about something at this level enough, and especially on a social media site where there's so much foolishness and fuckery. And so I thank you for bringing it up. You and Terry over the last few weeks have really brought up some serious topics that, look, I don't have a whole lot of viewers, but I was telling somebody this the other day. You all guys have friends, and you don't know who might see this. They might not be friends of mine, but they're friends of yours. And maybe they'll look in because Jay was online, or Top Cat was online, or Candace was online. And so for whatever it's worth, I hope it opens up the dialogue to let them know, number one, we can have these conversations again without yelling at each other, without walking away angry with each other. We had fun, but it was serious, and we was articulate. We was passionate about it. So I thank you, Jay, for bringing up the subject, because it gave us a chance to really talk about something that's real. It educated me. I'm a big proponent of education. I love research and stuff like this because I learned so much that I didn't know. It changes my thinking on how I look at things. I'm able to walk away from this, seeing aside for women how we all know that there's a disparity in income. Women have been fighting for that, so they don't make what men make. It's getting better. We know that there's a disproportionate level of responsibility. Women are called gold diggers and things of that nature, that they go after men for child support and things like that, and some of them are. We know that there's a disproportionate level of accountability when it comes to women, as it looks at it, because we know that there are women out there that are using the system to bankroll generations of being taken care of. But on the other side of that coin, men are facing those same challenges because there's a disproportionate expectation of what men should pay versus what women should pay, and we know that's not equal. We that's not debatable. Then there's an unbalance of custodial support. It's changing, but right now, for where we're at, it's by and large still heavily geared towards the women. And then all of those unfair perceptions of the deadbeat dad and the guy that don't want to be in the woman's life. I hope we dispelled some of these myths. I hope we opened the door to make it a little bit more palatable to have these conversations, not just with each other, with parenting. Because Jay, you said at the end of the day, it's about the children. So maybe having a conversation with your baby daddy, your baby mama, you'll see a little bit more on where they're coming from. And maybe at the end of the day, it'll be better for the child. And so for me, I thank you guys for participating. I love this conversation. I love all of you. Somebody earlier said, put a mute button. I don't do that here. I don't want to mute anybody. We don't have to mute anybody. I want you to feel free to be able to voice your opinion, be vocal, challenge me. I'm just an opinionated asshole here moderating. That's all I am. I'm not right. I'm just trying to find the answers just like the rest of you guys.
You do a good job.
Thank you.
Black, I have a question. So, usually Freddie is on my show as well. Let me thank you for being on my show. But I want you to talk about this red pill logic thing that I brought up on my show. I need for you to talk about it on your show.
Done.
So
Done.
I don't know if any of you have heard of this. Yes, this red pill stuff.
Like the Matrix or something?
Yes, Jay. It's a real movement.
It's similar.
It is a real movement that a lot of men out here are. Candace, done.
Think of Kevin Samuels. The Kevin Samuels video that went viral last week. That's red pill logic.
One of the things.
What's the name? I'm about to look it up. What's his name again?
Kevin Samuels.
Kevin Samuels.
His video went viral when he was telling the lady that she's 35 and got a kid and she shouldn't expect to have a husband. she's a 5 or a 6. I mean, he really
And
berated
she's
me.
average, and she does not deserve a high value man
So go watch that
because a
video.
high value man, yeah, high value man
Right.
wants a woman that's
And it went viral
eight
because
in the
he
face.
lit her
Yeah.
up now. He lit her up. But there's a movement behind it called Red Pill Logic based on the Matrix. And so, Candace, done.
Yes.
It's
Done.
gonna be
And
interesting.
you gonna get let me tell you this, Black. You'll get some views and you'll get some trolls too, because they're gonna call you a simp if you disagree with them.
Candace, I was on your show. You know I can handle myself pretty well. I ain't worried about that. And that was on a night that I was dealing with sciatica and was on pain medication.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good, guys.
And I was gonna say, D saw it too. D
He
saw
was
it.
great then. Yeah, that night. So
Oh, she was in the country. She was in the country.
I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. This has been a great conversation once again. I get off work and I'm re-energized. By the time I finish doing this, I'm enriched. I thank every last one of you guys. So I'm gonna say good night till the next conversation. Until then, it's been real talk, y'all.
All right.
All right.